Holiday edition. I am Kristine Glein. I'm the Chief Growth Officer here at the World of Wellness and Nutritional Frontiers. And I'm really excited to be here during Wellness Week to share all of the amazing, great things that we have to share with people today about how to stay healthy. And staying healthy is not just about what we're putting into our bodies, but it's about becoming aware of what's around our bodies and what's in our bodies and how our bodies function. So what I'm going to talk about today is the role of bioenergetics in health and wellness. So your first question is probably like, well, what the heck is that? So bioenergetics really means paying attention to our body and the energy that we have within our bodies and around our bodies. So if I bring it all the way back to science class, if you think about when you were we can wind the clock back to like fourth grade, and we were learning about protons and neutrons and electrons. And we remember that there was an energy field around those things. Well, we're all made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So guess what? We are energy. And we need to be mindful of our energy. And there's a lot of things that can drain our energy, right? You can start to feel it in your body when you're starting to get run down. And that's one of the ways that your body is talking to you. And what I've found is that typically anytime we're not feeling well physically, we're typically not feeling well mentally or emotionally, right? And if you really go underneath what your body is telling you, what's really going on, it's usually an emotional cause. And when we wind up stuffing emotions in our physical body, that causes a dissonance in our frequency or dis-ease within our body and causes us to go to a healthcare professional because we're like, this isn't working right. I don't understand what's going on. Why is this happening? But when we really start peeling back the layers, you're going to find that it's something to do with trapped emotions, stuffed emotions, a repetitive pattern, maybe even something that is an old trauma that's come up. As a matter of fact, this weekend I was speaking with someone who was here at the Wellness Center who had a breakout of psoriasis. And I said, well, what's happened recently? Well, he indicated that his wife was really struggling with walking and was thinking she was going to have to get a surgery. And I think it was all of that stress. And because the couple is so close, he was actually picking up on her energy and trying to run that through his own body. And it made him bring up this old fear of when he lost his father a long time ago. So I think the fear of, oh gosh, what if something happens to my spouse? That got this blooming in his body. So even just bringing some of the stuff up from our subconscious to our conscious mind and being aware of it can help shift it on the surface, right? At least a start. You know, we always talk about, awareness is the first thing. And so what I want us to do today is to really learn a little bit more about what bioenergetics is and how it really affects you. So I'm going to pull up a couple things here. If we go back to kind of science class, right? Knowing that we are all electromagnetic fields, we all have an electromagnetic field around us, we all have an electromagnetic field around everybody and everything. And the reason we can see something solid, right, is because of how it's vibrating, how slow or how fast something's vibrating. So, for example, I can see this physical microphone, but the only way you're seeing me is because of the vibration being so fast that it's able to be broadcast over the internet, right? We can't see music, but we can hear it and feel it. It all has to do with vibration and frequency. So emotions like fear and jealousy and greed vibrate lower. I'm having a hard time between here and here today. Can you tell? All right. They vibrate lower at a lower frequency than emotions like love, okay, or joy, or peace. And you can actually measure the frequency of emotions. So waves of vibration can be measured. Frequency can be measured. If you've not heard of that, you can check out work by Dr. David Hawkins in a book called Power versus Force. And I actually have an expanded version of this chart that I use to measure what somebody's state is before I work with them, and then again at the end of the session. So if we think about like how does this all work, right? We spend an awful lot of time in our heads, right? Um, and if we talk about our mind, did you know that we only use 5% of our mind? This is a proven scientific fact. This is not me making it up. But 5% of our mind to do all of our thinking. Yeah, our strategizing, our figuring, all of that mental activity is only 5%. The rest of it, right, beyond all that calculating, is subconscious activity. Now, that means all the negative energy, the toxic emotions, the destructive thoughts, repetitive caustic patterns, self limiting beliefs all reside within our subconscious mind, and they typically loop like cycling over and over and over again. So, really, our subconscious mind is what's in the driver's seat, and it's extremely powerful, right? It only pays attention to the thoughts around the feelings. So when you feel, when you believe you deserve something, you get it, whether that's positive or negative. It's literally how the quantum field of energy works. So how are you supposed to know what you need to shift if you don't even know how to access it, if it's stuck in your subconscious mind where you can't figure out what's going on down there? Well, that is truly where my own method called the Power of Soul Intelligence comes in. This method actually helps shift out stuck energy that's in your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies. It brings up of some of what's stuck in our subconscious mind to the conscious mind's awareness so that you can at least acknowledge it and have the opportunity to release it. It helps to clear away old belief patterns that are no longer serving you, old archetypes that aren't supporting you, and feelings that have been suppressed, so that you can more easily go within and become aligned to your true calling, your mission, your vision, your values, your purpose, your true why. So this incredible methodology actually allows you to access information wherever it's residing without you actually having to relive any trauma. Pretty incredible. And that's actually one of the reasons why I partner with so many healthcare professionals, right? When you go into a doctor's office, you're telling them what's going wrong with you physically. But the other thing that they're always asking you is, what's going on in your life, right? And then you start going on about your relationship or work or what other stressors you've got going on in your life. We know that stress negatively affects the body, right? So the quantum field is an electromagnetic field, okay? We live in it, we operate in it, we are a part of it. So it all starts with an electric spark, okay? And that's really the masculine energy. That's that thought, that idea, right? That initial intellect that starts the chain reaction in the quantum field. But what magnifies and brings things into form is the magnetic quality of the feminine energy, emotions. And emotions are the magnetic part of the electromagnetic field. It's really the amplifier that collapses that particle wave and brings something into form. Emotion is energy in motion. So when energy gets stuck, that's when the trouble starts. One of the reasons why you're told to exercise is to move energy through your body, out of your body, right? So Neville Goddard wrote an incredible book, and it's really tiny, and it's called Emotions Are the Secret. And the more I study, the more I work with people, the more I know that to be true, because I've seen it. So if you think about, we'll talk about our minds, right? I said we only actually access 5% of our minds to do all of our conscious thinking, strategizing, and thought. Well, let's think about the heart for a second. The Heart Math Institute has actually measured the electromagnetic field around the heart. It's not just a random pump in our chest. It actually has a 6-foot wide electromagnetic field around it. Think about that. Your brain only has a 2-foot wide electromagnetic field. So think about how infinitely more powerful our heart is. So think about this. If your mind and your heart are not in coherence, your subconscious mind is going to take over and manifest how you feel about it. And that's why The Secret from the 80s didn't work for everybody, right? You can't just say an affirmation up here and expect things to shift. You actually have to feel it. So when I work with our team and we do, it's getting about to be this time of year where I have everybody pick a word of the year. What do you want to experience and what do you want to feel for next year? And you have to be really careful with the word because whatever you put out there is going to manifest. And so I'll explain that. But what I want us to do when we're sitting down to think about our year and doing our next year's planning, like 2024, I always have us sit there and think about it's next New Year's Eve, New Year's Eve 2024, a year from now. And I have our team sit down and write out what accomplishments they had personally, professionally. Where did they go on vacations? What fun things did they do? Who were they with? What incredible experiences happened? What, all of that, and write it with feeling. And the reason we do that is because our subconscious mind doesn't know time. So if we start focusing on what we want to bring in and act as if it's already happened, you feel into it, that's what activates your subconscious mind and creates a new neural pathway for you to be able to manifest that more quickly. Okay? So how does this work? I know it sounds like a little bit of Christmas magic or hocus pocus right now, but I want to explain to you the science of energy, of quantum physics and bioenergetics without going too deep, okay? So let's like shift into from, science in elementary school to maybe first year college biology, okay? So here's how and why energy gets stuck. Our bodies are protein-making machines. Okay, so every cell in our body, with the exception of the red blood cells, make proteins, okay? And in order for a cell to make a protein, it has to be stimulated or regulated. So we have to get it going or control it. And our genes are essentially a library of potentials. And the latest research in the field of genetics says that genes don't actually cause disease. It's the environment that signals the gene that begins to create disease. Now, you've heard a lot of that here, right? A big part of what we have to do to stay healthy is to manage toxicity, what we ingest, what we expose ourselves to. So that makes a lot of sense. So let's think about it in terms of our physical bodies. Less than 1% of people are actually born with genetic conditions that cause disease. And that's really counterintuitive to what we've heard in major media, right? So it really supports functional medicine and changing our environment. And so usually when we think about changing our environment, we think about changing our outer environment. But what I'm going to talk to you about, and especially where soul intelligence operates, is changing our inner environment. Okay, certainly if you want to create a healthier lifestyle and get some physical support, you need to come here to the World of Wellness because we are having 30% off all Nutritional Frontiers products through the end of the month. And if you want to help yourself and your family stay healthier this season, definitely come in. We have lots of incredible formulations to help keep you and your loved ones healthy. So what can you do in addition to making sure you put the right stuff in your body? What can you do to change your inner environment and how it functions? All right, and we're going to talk about your inner environment as it correlates to our thoughts, our emotions, and our physical body. So our inner environment is actually affected by our emotional state. And that is a key factor in sending signals that causes genes to either upregulate or downregulate. All right? The environment signals the gene, and the end product of an experience is called an emotion, right? We talked about energy in motion. So when someone has an emotionally charged experience, it begins to send a chemical emotional signal to the body. And it's that chemical emotional signal that begins to change the person's state of being, right? The person's body and brain are now effectively operating in the past because of that event. And it has changed them biologically. And what happens to most people is that they begin to create beliefs from these past experiences. So think about any kind of memorable trauma that you've had, like a car accident, or maybe even physical abuse, or mental abuse, or emotional abuse, right? or a repetitive pattern from childhood. Maybe you were told you weren't good enough as a kid, so you became an overachiever, right? Since we are our thoughts neurologically and our feelings chemically, we embrace the biology of those past experiences, which ultimately becomes our state of being. Because how we think and how we feel actually create the state of being. Doesn't that make sense? Right? Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. Highly charged emotional events can signal genes that begin to cause the body to change. So think about that. When you associate the trauma and those emotions of your past experience, whatever it was, you can't even think about how you feel about other events because this routine has begun to influence your gene expression. What do I mean? Okay. There's no new information coming in from the environment, right? You guys have all heard, repetitive negative thoughts leads in your inner thinking leads to creating self-limiting beliefs. If you keep thinking the same thing over and over again, guess what? You create a belief. If you believe you can't be successful, manifest destiny. You're not going to be successful. If you're afraid to succeed, right, for one reason or another, then you're going to hold yourself back consistently. So that's where those self-limiting beliefs come from. The toxic emotions that continue to feed these repetitive patterns, what we're doing is we're sending the same information to those genes over and over again, right? So internally, we're creating the definition of insanity, okay, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? The genes in your body need a pattern disruptor, right? Otherwise, you're going to get the same old condition. All right, so think about that. So how do you change the inner environment? You can't just think differently, right, or create a new belief. You can, but it takes time. One of the things that you can actually do is once you recognize what this pattern is you can start to work with it, and you can start to notice when you're looking through those same colored glasses, right, and the situation isn't changing. Or you continue to go into a situation and you expect things to change even though you haven't changed your belief or how you feel about it. So let's get back to the science part. Meditation can really, really help, but you have to know, right, what you want to shift first. So let's get back to the genes. All right, once we signal a gene and the person is constantly living out of balance, that imbalance becomes the new normal. And now the internal environment of the body is sending those specific signals to the cells. So your cells are getting the same instructions. The same instructions produce the same proteins. And then the person begins to experience ill health or dis-ease within the body, right? A dissonance in the frequency, and they have to go to a healthcare professional. So that's where the root of chronic illnesses happen. That's where repetitive conditions happen. That's where people have to keep going back to the doctor. You fix one thing and then something else goes wrong, right? It is the definition of insanity, but that's because we haven't changed the internal environment. We may have done some things, right? We may have taken a medication or taken a nutraceutical protocol. But if we haven't changed our mind and we haven't changed our heart and we haven't shifted those old beliefs or those old patterns, guess what? We might fix one thing and another thing will happen, or we may fix it for a short period of time and then it comes back, right? So when you have this internal experience in your mind, it carries that amplitude of energy. And when that's greater than the hardwired program in your brain and the emotional conditioning in your body, then you're going to become changed for better or worse. And it's your choice how you react to those experiences, positively or negatively. But what you need to know is your emotional state changes the internal mapping of your brain. Your biology literally changes, or better yet, the past no longer exists, or you rewrite a new pattern, right? You create a new belief, and new information comes into the body. That's one of the reasons why when people are going through intense cancer treatments, there's so much talk around mindset and belief and, focusing on getting better, on healing, on shifting it for the good. spending time in prayer and meditation, expecting that you're going to heal, right? It all has to do with changing that inner environment of the body. And, energy influencing matter is a quantum phenomenon, and we all have the ability to be quantum healers, right? Well, soul intelligence actually operates at this level. It is a bioenergetic program and a quantum form of healing. And if you're interested in healthy aging, and you're a longevity enthusiast, right? You can also extend your life by changing your internal state. Actually, on the cells, there are these telomeres on the genes, sorry. And the length of telomeres have been linked to anti-aging or healthy aging. So Dr. Joe Dispenza is a neuroscientist, much greater, knowledge base than what I have. And he shared a number of experiments that actually support this epigenetic research. He did this really cool, and I love this idea because I love to laugh, but he took a group of people with type 2 diabetes and they exposed them to a very funny 1-hour comedy show where they laughed really hard for an hour. The experience actually measured the before and after to see whether or not their genes upregulated or not. Well, the good news is from just laughing, literally, for an hour, 20 genes were upregulated just by people changing their mood, their internal state, right? They were able to instruct the genes to upregulate and make healthy proteins instead of the destructive proteins. There were other studies that he's done too that showed out of UCLA, men with prostate cancer were able to upregulate new genes for health and downregulate those genes for disease by meditating daily for 60 days. That was it. And it wasn't like they had to stay in that state all day, every day. It was about a 15-minute meditation every day. But they also, in that study, showed that their telomeres lengthened and they increased their longevity, their biological age versus their chronological age. And if you know anything about me, I'm a big proponent of that one. Dr. Joe Dispenza also held a 4-day meditation retreat, and people who attended that were able to reverse serious health conditions in just 4 days. So when I talk about what we can do in terms of changing our internal state, it's actually helping to heal and shift your genes, your biology. So you're either going to upregulate new genes or downregulate other genes that create the disease and the imbalance. So we really truly are our own genetic engineers, and we're not our genes. So how do you affect your internal state or that of your family or your friends or your clients or your patients? Well, that's where the soul intelligence method comes in. The key to relationship with your spouse, or the answer to streamlining your relationship with your colleagues or your coworkers, like the missing piece to maybe grow your business and improve your wealth and prosperity, the magic elixir to your mental, emotional, and physical health. Does it sound too good to be true? Well, I would probably say I agree with you, but I know better. The simple answer is that it's all within you, and it's within your power to shift all of those things. But most of us try and do it on our own, right? And we fail. And the true game changer is paying attention to your bioenergetics. And that is really the science, the connection that your physical and emotional health are intricately connected. And it is really all about the balance between your mind, your body, and your spirit, your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Think about it. When you're physically healthy, you're able to cope with stress and emotions easier, right? When we're emotionally healthy, our bodies are able to function properly. Things like nutrition and exercise and mindset and lifestyle, they do all help. But bioenergetics is truly the game changer because it gets to the root cause of any of the chronic illnesses. What's stuck? What energy is not in motion? When energy is not in motion, that is exactly when the trouble starts. And, this concept is not something that I made up, okay? It's been around since the 1950s. In fact, the bioenergetic analysis was developed by Dr. Alexander Lowen, and they believed that physical ailments were rooted in unconscious psychic conflict. Essentially, chronic stress could also lead to mental health issues. Well, I think we've seen that play out pretty well today, right? We understand how much stress affects our body's ability to stay healthy. When you start to get a cold, that's mental confusion, okay? When you start to feel like, my immune system's starting to struggle, I need to do something, that's when you go for your Immunimax, right? So that you boost your immune system. But typically, it's because you've got a lot coming at you. That's typically what's at the root of a cold. If you get a lot of sinus infections, that usually means you're irritated with one person you're really close to. I'm not going to name names or point fingers, but you know who you are. I want you to think about every illness, every one of them has a root cause, an emotional root cause. And so a lot of what we talk about when in our Holistic Truth episodes, if you're not listening, we are available on all podcasts where you get your podcasts, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify. We're also on YouTube, and there's a new episode every single week. And if you don't have time for that, we've got lots of snippets from the Holistic Truth all over social media. So you can look us up at the World of Wellness or Nutritional Frontiers, and like and share what you hear out there. But every time we talk about wellness, we're not just talking about what you can do to support the physical body, but we're talking about what you can do for the mental and emotional body as well. And certainly your spiritual body, whatever that life is to you, whether you connect to the divine of all that is, nature, God, whatever you call a power greater than yourself. We talk about our spiritual well-being. And a lot of the events that we do, both at the World of Wellness and Nutritional Frontiers, is to support the whole person, healing holistically, right? And that doesn't just mean our physical body. It means our mental and emotional health as well. And there are things that you can do. But bioenergetic therapies help people release physical, mental, emotional tension that is at the root cause of all of our problems. And truly, the soul intelligence method is the best way, the most revolutionary way that I know that's available to me today, that I share with people. And, when we talk about how powerful emotions really are, it's really all about vibration. And so I want to share with you a little bit about the soul intelligence system. Essentially what that is this book right here. And it's a book of charts that I use, and it covers lots of different things that go on in our lives. And I promised Phil I wouldn't do a session right now. I'm just going to hold the book, okay? But basically, it goes over core challenges in your life, like when we allow things and tolerate things, when we have a control and power issue, an authority issue, then I'm able to look at what's going on, in detail to try and bring things up from the subconscious to the conscious mind. There's lots of different energies, whether it's positive, negative emotions, whether it's stuck patterns, what we sometimes call archetypes, whether it's something that we call, traumatic injury to the body, or emotional or physical challenges. I've got charts that block our ability to feel free or to make change in our life. I have other charts that relate to what's going on in the physical body and may point to a part of our body that's not feeling great, where we're holding a lot of energy that needs to shift. People have probably heard, if you've got something going on in your liver, there's a lot of unresolved anger. Sometimes kidney stones also represent unresolved trauma and anger. There's a root cause to pretty much anything that's going on in the body. And that's one of the reasons why most patients that go to healthcare professionals today are being treated for chronic conditions that won't change, that won't shift, as opposed to, an emergency thing, where you broke your arm and you got to go to the ER to get it set, right? It's mostly about what's not healing. Why do I feel this way? Why won't this shift? Why is it stuck? And that's because we're not taking care of the whole person. We're not treating what we need to do for ourselves mentally and emotionally. We're only covering one aspect. So this is a way to work in conjunction with healthcare professionals to help shift things on a more permanent basis. So I have other charts in here about career and work, things that may be blocked, like you're not able to allow energy to flow in, so you're stopping the flow of business. Certain things around standing in your own way, maybe in entrepreneurship, things around self-limiting beliefs, right? What if you feel like you're invisible or you feel like you're all alone? How is that going to affect the way you operate in the world? And so we're able to address these beliefs and bring them up. So I do group sessions. I do them once a month as part of our Wellness Wednesdays. And if you haven't participated in a Wellness Wednesday, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we offer a free session. It might be a session on yoga with our resident yogi, Kara. It might be a session on stretching from our own Dr. Phil here at the World of Wellness. It could potentially be something nutritional that we share from Alicia, our wonderful nutrition counselor. Or it could be what I do, which is a soul intelligence session where we start shifting things energetically, mentally, and emotionally. And I do pay attention to what's going on in terms of out there in the universe. Certain energies affect us, how we feel on a universal basis. So typically when I do a group session, it's usually around a theme, but I do a lot of individual sessions as well. And what I'm really called to do is to train other people in this method. So if you're interested in learning more about soul intelligence, you can go to soulintelligencemethod.com and read all about the program. If you are interested in a soul intelligence session, I have other practitioners now who are trained. I have about 6 that are trained because I just started my first cohort this year and had my first set of graduates, which I'm very excited about. Woo woo! And so I do have sessions available with those healers as well. So if that's of interest to you, you can also let me know. You can reach me at Kristine with a K at nutritionalfrontiers.com. and send me an email and let me know what you're interested in. And one of the neat things about being a part of the World of Wellness and Nutritional Frontiers is we're really focused on education. We want to make sure that we educate everybody on how to use nutraceuticals effectively, what are the right protocols, what are the incredible ingredients in those products that help our bodies physically feel better so that we can then focus on what's underneath that and what do I need to shift mentally and emotionally. And so all of the education that we offer can be found on our YouTube as well at the World of Wellness or Nutritional Frontiers. We have lots of amazing videos. And like I said, you can also check us out on The Holistic Truth. We have a new podcast that comes out every week. And we try and keep those things relevant as to what's going on in the world. So again, if you're interested in learning more about soul intelligence, you can go to soulintelligencemethod.com, and please check us out on all of our socials. All right, until next time, have a wonderful, well-filled day.